The Watchtower Bible and Tract Society, better known by the name the Jehovah's Witness religion. They teach their members that their entire life will crumble, that they will only find unhappiness and defeat if they ever leave the organization. This teaching keeps 8 million plus Jehovah's Witnesses worldwide firmly locked in and faithfully obedient to the governing body, the leaders of the religion. Those who are brave enough to leave the organization despite this teaching are silenced, they are shunned, and oftentimes they are never heard from again. Why did they leave? And what happens after?
We were members of Jehovah's Witnesses organization, religion, for 36 years. Previously, both Fran and I were Catholics, born and raised Roman Catholic. We came in with how many children?
We had 3 children, and we were pregnant for our last one.
The motivation was to teach the children about the Bible, about God, and have an avenue to provide charity for people in need. That was our goal for the family, our volunteering for charity. And we were under the assumption that the witnesses did charity, which we came to find out that they really did not do charity.
I was a Jehovah's Witness for a little over 15 years. I came into it shortly before turning 11 years old, and then I left shortly after turning 26 years old. So not just 15 years, but we're talking 15 of some of the most impactful years of your personal development. So this is the Kingdom Hall that my family went to when we first joined the Jehovah's Witnesses. I was here from 10 years old up until a little after 16. This is where I gave my first talk. This is where I got baptized. This is where it all started for me. There's this common misconception among witnesses that those who leave never really had it in their hearts. But for me, that was not the case at all. I took the religion very, very seriously. Just before my waking up experience, I was serving as a ministerial servant. I was giving public talks. I was working my butt off to become an elder eventually. You combine the fact that they had this huge influence over my personal development, combined with the fact that I took it very seriously and really believed it was the truth. And both of those things together meant that my waking up experience was all the more confusing and really traumatizing. So around the time that I woke up, back in 2017, the Australian Royal Commission was doing their investigation on several different organizations in regards to how they handle child abuse. And all of these organizations had problems. Now, the Jehovah's Witnesses were one of the smallest organizations that they were investigating. And Australia is already a small country as it is. I mean, most of the country is not even inhabited. And yet, the Jehovah's Witnesses had over 1,000 cases of child abuse that were never reported to the authorities. This means that those abusers were able to go free. They did not have to serve time in jail. They did not have to report themselves as a sex offender, which puts up barriers to make sure that they can't harm other children in the future. And that not only puts children within the organization in danger, but it also puts children on the outside in danger. And this was very shocking to me, especially because witnesses often say they have a perfect organization ran by imperfect men. But this behavior was not reflective of a perfect organization. So that gave me permission to look further. And the more I looked, the more I found that this was not a new issue. This issue of child abuse has been going on for a long, long time in many different countries, and the Watchtower has spent millions upon millions of dollars over the years dealing with court cases and handling settlements outside of court.
So I woke up in 2020, and I first started having just doubts about the way that everything was handled with my sexual abuse as a child. I knew it was handled wrong, but I had been told that it was imperfect men and Jehovah saw everything, that I wasn't trusting in him if I was trying to get justice, that I was relying on myself and not Jehovah. So I believed that for most of my life, and I think when I started to do therapy and really understand the seriousness of what happened to me and how it was just shoved under the rug, that it started to bring everything back up. Years after I was disfellowshipped for my abuse, 20 years later, over 20 years later, and I had confronted them because I was doing research and my brother-in-law was my abuser and he still had privileges in the congregation, and I had read that that's not supposed to be how it is. And so I also just had a lot of things that I was hanging on to, holding on to, that were really damaging me emotionally, that I needed to get out. So I had a meeting with the elders and my brother-in-law and my sister, and I said everything that I really been holding on to. It was a big release. I bawled my eyes out. I said a lot of stuff that I needed to say. And at the close of that meeting, the elders said to me, the whole point of this meeting was so that you could forgive him so that he can have privileges in the congregation. And it kind of shocked me, because that was not the reason that I set up this meeting. The reason I set up this meeting was because I was disfellowshipped for my own abuse, and I had blamed myself my entire life, and it had been dealt with incorrectly, and I wanted some justice.
I was a witness for my whole life. My mom came into studying the Bible with a witness lady when I was an infant, and so that's how we came in. 1975, when I was born. When I was 16 years old, I was disfellowshipped after my stepdad abused me, and I spent the next 26 years of my life really abusing myself and really going down a lot of unnecessary pain and suffering, because I wasn't protected and I was made out to be at fault, even though I was the victim. So it took me a long time to come to the realization that what had been done was wrong.
I was raised in the organization since I was 1. My parents got taken in with somebody knocking on the door. I was baptized at the age of 13, and I had parts of the assembly. I auxiliary pioneered over the summertime. At the age of 14, I was sexually abused by a 30-something-year-old brother, and I had told a teacher, and they called CPS, and the police were involved. We got lawyers. I had a guardian ad litem. I had forced counseling that I didn't want to go to, that I didn't trust. When the elders found out, they publicly reproved me, and they privately reproved the brother. And so I was completely soft shunned. I was alone. I felt isolated, except for one 23-year-old brother that took an interest in me. Who knew that would lead to statutory rape? One of the sisters found out about the fornication and said that if I didn't tell, she would. And so the brother, so I forged my birth certificate, erased the date, and used a typewriter to change the name. He took me over state lines, and we got married. We were disfellowshipped, and I was out for about a year, which was a really, really hard time. I remember 6 months in, really missing my mom, and I called one of the elders and just begged that we could just talk, because I really missed her. Said no, that it would put her spirituality at risk, and I didn't want to do that.
When we found out that the organization was basically hiding pedophiles, we researched it and found out that as far as we're concerned, it was true. And at that point, we decided that that's not the organization that we wanted to support at all.
We were 70 years old at that point.
At that point, we were 70. Yeah, physically and mentally out. In other words, we were only remaining in to see what we can do to salvage any relationship with our family and friends, considering the fact that Jehovah's Witnesses has a policy of shunning members who leave or who are disfellowshipped.
I realized that my entire life, everything that I've ever known was a lie. You know, my entire life growing up was a lie. It felt so surreal because for all my life I've been hearing, this is the truth, this is the truth, this is the truth, right? I had that brainwash in me since birth. Yeah, it was a gut-wrenching feeling knowing that my entire life, my entire upbringing, my roots, remember I was born and raised in this religion, so everything I ever thought about was a lie. And like I said, it's hard to put a word on this feeling. And if you feel like you can't believe your own upbringing, it's like, what else can you believe? Who else can you trust? If you can't trust what's supposed to be the one true religion, the leaders, God's chosen channel, if that was all a lie, it's like, it made me question and doubt everything else.
More and more things kept coming up. I looked into jwfacts.com and the whole house of cards came crumbling down. I mean, when you go on that website, you see that they have been manipulating, lying, and misleading people since the beginning. You know, when you first join the Jehovah's Witnesses, there's a lot of emotional manipulation happening with the way that they do their studies. And the four main emotions that they want you to feel are fear, guilt, shame, and superiority. And once you feel all four of those emotions, they got you. You know, you're never going to doubt them. You're never going to question them. You're firmly fixed on following whatever the governing body tells you to do. A lot of people, when they're going through the process of waking up, they also go through a process of internal battling. And I went through that myself for a solid 7 months. 7 months of just flip-flopping back and forth. Should I stay? Should I go? You know, Jehovah will fix this. I need to just be faithful and just wait on him. And then on the other side, you know, looking through their history and being like, well, no, they've been doing this from the beginning.
You know, that really upset me, made me angry. I felt like I was being lied to. So I was like, what else am I being lied to about? Like, I deserve to know. So that's when I gave myself the okay to start YouTubing stuff. And then sure enough, I came across some YouTube videos. And at that time, I was still skeptical about stuff that I was hearing, which is, you know, good. I'm always going to maintain that, being skeptical of anything. But, you know, the more stuff I heard apostates talk about, they were telling the truth, and I just couldn't deny that anymore. You know, it's like, well, what do I really believe in? You know, who am I? At the same time, I'm questioning this faith. So it's like, all right, let's figure this in. Let's just dive in. Like, what is this? Like, ask myself the hard questions and not hide from it, you know?
I remember just closing my laptop down one day, like, I'm so done with this. And I told my daughter, she was, you know, a little girl, she was like 10 years old. I told her, honey, we're not going to go to meetings anymore. You know, I found out some stuff that isn't good. And she goes, oh, good, Mommy. I'm really glad because I was been looking on the internet and like, it's really bad. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, we kept these stories from each other for about a year, probably. So when we left, like, she was so happy. She was so happy.
In the process of leaving, many of us had to walk away from friends, family members, jobs, and of course, our entire belief system and culture.
I had so much anger thrown aside because when you wake up, it's like you say to yourself, how did I fall for this all this time? And part of me was pissed off at my mom because she's the one who raised my brothers in this, you know? But then I realized She was a single mother just trying to do her best. And, she really believes, sad to say, she still believes that this is the truth.
So the anger that I felt when I woke up, it was actually pretty overwhelming. I just remember yelling at the top of my lungs driving to work and saying, F you, so loud. There was so much anger inside of me. I didn't really have a place to there wasn't an outlet. So it was my car in the dark on the way to work.
So this is the assembly hall that serves Western Washington. And this also happens to be the very building where I was baptized, where I committed myself to this organization, where I was misled. For a while, I couldn't even drive past this street without feeling physically sick to my stomach.
I'm realizing that our body is a tool to our life. And so the more that we have pain or anger, frustration, emotion, it's a signal that something's wrong. If it's bad, it has to go away. If it's making you not feel good, you have to do without it. And when you do that, you only make space for more positive things.
I did a lot of things to try to release this anger, but the thing that really helped the most was actually empathy. And it's kind of funny, as an ex-witness, I actually have more empathy for Jehovah's Witnesses now than I did when I was actually in the organization as an active witness. And that empathy really came from looking at some of the EXJW forums and seeing the words of people who are still in that process of waking up, still just beginning to question things. And it just reminded me of what it was like to be a witness, seeing how they were battling themselves. It's like being mad at someone who is blindfolded for bumping into you. They're obviously blindfolded. They're not seeing for themselves. So of course they're going to bump into things. And to go a step further, it's as if that blindfolded person is trying to assure you that they are not blindfolded. In that case, all you can really do is have empathy for them. Because obviously this person is being fooled. Whoever it is that put the blindfolds on them has so much control over their mind, so much control over their life, and they really do not have their best interest. And so for that reason, any residual anger that I do have is towards the leadership, towards the people at the top. But even for them, that anger, that hatred is just not worth it. It's not worth my time. It's not worth my mental energy. So all I really have for them is pity. I have pity for them. Because if you need that much control over people's lives, if you feel the need to manipulate people, if you feel the need to fearmonger and guilt shame people that much, something is wrong with you. You are hurting in some way, because no normal, healthy person feels the need to treat other people like that. So again, when it comes to the Watchtower leadership, all I have for them is pity. But when it comes to the rank and file, the majority of Jehovah's Witnesses out there who are just doing what they feel is the right thing to do, and they're scared for their lives, literally scared for their lives of doing the wrong thing, for them, I just have empathy.
There's the anger and then the sadness, and then it was like, okay, do you want to continue to feel like this? It expended so much of my energy. So once I had gotten to the place where I had kind of moved through those emotions and processed everything, I was ready to heal and move on.
Leaving a high control group like the Jehovah's Witnesses, which has so much influence on nearly every aspect of your life, both physically and mentally, requires you to go through a very deep, almost ego death-like experience. The type of earth-shattering experience that strips away every piece of you that you thought was you.
Starting to grow a beard, the typical stages, but getting tattoos. I went through a phase where it was like bleached my hair blonde. People were like, oh, this guy just got divorced. He's going through a midlife crisis. And people, I'm like, if you only knew.
For many of us ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, that first year out of the Watchtower is the most confusing. My entire reality, or what I thought was reality, had been completely shattered, broken apart. And I had to find my own way now.
I have spent so much time alone, and it's not always easy to be alone. It forces you to face your fears and to listen to your own head, because you're not distracted by other conversations and you're not distracted by other people. You are just fully in your own head. And it really made me just really think about where my mind goes all the time and what do I focus on and what do I really want. I still have a lot of room for growth. I still have things that come up where I'm like, wow, I'm still dealing with this. Wow, I still am very hurt by this. And I'm probably gonna have that the rest of my life. But I do know who I am. I do know what life I want. I do know what goals I have. I am proud of where I'm at.
For me, one of my hardest and personal struggles has been just loving myself. And it took a long time to just appreciate myself for all of the things that I've been through. But the piece of it that I had to really work on was like my thoughts that I was thinking. And when I would catch myself saying mean things to myself, like I never would talk to anybody like that, not my kids, not my friend, but I would tell myself the most hurtful things. So when I stopped doing that, I just saw, I just like kind of took off, you know? So yeah, I love myself, and loving myself doesn't take away from anybody else, you know? Like I have so much love inside of me, enough for me and everyone else. And when I included myself in the circle of people that I really love, it just amplifies everything.
You know, it almost felt like I was going through puberty all over again. You know, something that I should have experienced at 16, 17 years old, those years of self-discovery, those years of really finding who you are and how you're going to fit into this world. It felt like I was having to do that much later, you know, at 26, 27 years old. Now that I was free from this religion that was telling me what I should want for myself.
Every negative experience that we have in life can teach us something, and that way it doesn't repeat. When we learn a lesson, we can do something different the next time that happens. And I think that has helped me to have such a better, more peaceful, more happy life, because when something does go wrong, I'm like, what can this teach me? Not why is this happening to me? And that little switch it changes everything in life. It changes your mood, changes the way that you feel, and it's been a positive thing for me. From what I've been through, I've learned that there is a perspective you can choose. Every single thing that happens to you, it is what you make it.
Every year on the morning of my birthday, I go look at myself in the mirror, look into my own eyes, and I ask myself, how high can this thing go? And honestly, I do not know the answer to that. And that's such an awesome thing, to not know the answer to that. Because my potential is limitless, just like all of us. But when we were witnesses, our potential had limits. They were encouraging us not to go too far in life. I know that this journey of growth and personal development will never end. And that's an exciting thing. You know, that means that 10 years from now, I have no idea where I will be. I have no idea what I will be capable of.
I think the most important thing that I've learned since leaving, and the way that I've grown the most, is that I've learned to appreciate the little things in life. I don't spend every day of my life worrying if I prayed enough, if I read enough, if I need more time in service, not feeling good enough constantly. I actually am just focusing on my relationship with my kids, my relationship with myself, and my relationship with others, and making it be as beautiful as possible, and enjoying creation and enjoying the love that there is on this planet.
I try not to be married to like any opinion and keep an open mind about things. So my opinion has changed about a lot of things. And the witnesses, I guess, twist that and like, oh, you're just going with the wind. You don't know what you believe like day to day. And it's like, yeah, it's actually liberating and freeing being able to say like, I was wrong and I've changed my mind with the new information. Like, have you ever tried that? When was the last time you changed your mind about anything?
There's a lot of personal discovery that you get the chance to go through, especially in that first year. But as scary as that is, just know that even though you have to tear yourself down, there is great opportunity in being able to build yourself up exactly how you want to be for your life. Relationships are another area where the Watchtower has an immense amount of control over their members. When it comes to marriage, dating, and sex, the Watchtower's pursuit of purity at any cost along with their constant use of guilt, shame, and fear, often opens the door to deep misery, psychological issues, and all different types of abuse that are kept hidden in the shadows. One of the biggest issues with the way Jehovah's Witnesses handle romantic relationships is that they rush into marriage. And one of the main reasons for this is that the Watchtower has created a very sexually repressive culture. And let's be honest here, a lot of these people are getting married just so they can have sex without getting in trouble for it. And hey, while we're being honest here, that is a horrible reason to get married. And what's even sadder is that a lot of these people who are rushing into marriage are in their late teens, early 20s. They're still going through their own development. And they're doing that development in a culture that really doesn't give you the chance to truly get to know yourself. And then you're getting rushed into a marriage with a person that you really haven't had a chance to get to know. You know, a lot of witnesses are going from nice to meet you to engaged in about 6 months, 6 to 8 months, and full-on married most of the time in less than a year. And of course, when these Jehovah's Witnesses marriages go bad, there's no help for them. Whether it's physical abuse, mental abuse, or even just something as small as just not really being compatible with each other. There's no help. The very same people that try to push them to get married as fast as possible are nowhere to be found. And if you do find them, all they're going to say is, well, you made your choice. Pray about it. And that's just not good enough. That's not good enough when you have pushed these people who are still practically kids to make this lifelong decision. You know, as someone that comes from a split family home, I understand that divorce is a very serious thing. I've seen the pain it can cause, especially when kids are involved. But at the same time, I'm sure that a lot of us as witnesses have also seen what can happen when two people are forced to stay married who really should have gotten a divorce. One of the things that I really, really appreciate about my own relationship is just having that time and privacy and space. One of the biggest benefits in our relationship has been the ability to live together before getting married, because just the matter of moving in together and sharing a space changes the whole dynamic of the relationship.
Yeah, I was way too young to be getting married. Yeah, I was 23 when I got married, and I had trauma that I never addressed, that I didn't even know I needed to address because I just suppressed it. And there was a lot of work that I needed to do personally, and my ex too, you know, both sides I needed to do before we jump into this marriage. But like any kind of typical, it's like, I want to please my parents, her parents, I want to check all the boxes, right? So that's what you do. You get married, and then you're kind of stuck, like you get put into the real world.
I was single for 5 years in the organization, and when I left, I had to do a lot of work on myself, and I had to really figure out who I wanted, what did he look like, where did he live, what did he do, how would he treat me. You know, I had already been divorced 3 times, so when I met him, I really wasn't even sure. I didn't feel good about myself. There's 3 marriages, 3 divorces, 5 kids, and 2 kids that were given up for adoption. And so when I met him, I just felt so vulnerable. But in meeting him, what I found out about myself is that marriage isn't always the answer. Because I am so happy. I'm so incredibly happy in my life and with him that there's really no need to get married. I'm independent, he's independent, and we just have such a good life. There's no reason to be married. So I'm just so happy that I learned that marriage isn't always the answer.
There was this sister in Australia who reached out to me while I was at fellowship, talking about hey, you've been on my mind, we haven't spoken in years. And, I thought she was sincere until I was 100% honest with her. I told her, so listen, I really would like to pursue something with you. However, I no longer believe in this religion. And the minute I said I no longer believe in this religion, I told her I was going to eventually leave. She completely switched up the whole scenario, and She went from, you was on my mind. I've been thinking about you. You was on my mind. She went from that to, we can't be together because you're going to leave this religion. You have to find people who actually care about you for you, and who's going to want to be with you for who you are as a person and not for your religious beliefs.
Another thing the Watchtower tells their members is that the pursuit of money, the pursuit of success in this system is worthless, because they believe that the end of this system could come any day now. And so this means for all Jehovah's Witnesses, there is an almost unwritten vow of poverty, as they are encouraged to not seek higher education, to not pursue entrepreneurial dreams, or even strive for a higher status at their place of work. They are to live a simple life, prioritizing only the pursuits of the organization.
They were not encouraged to have a very good economic life for themselves. They're encouraged to work hard for that kingdom government organization, basically to be a slave for the organization. And they were, and we were slaves for that organization, unpaid, volunteer slaves for that organization. And they profited because of our work, but not any longer. Now the ones that are out are profiting for their lives.
Since leaving the Jehovah's Witnesses, I no longer put these unnecessary ceilings over myself when it comes to money and success. You know, a lot of people are searching for the purpose of life. And in that search, a lot of them end up getting caught up in religion, and they'll give them a purpose. But if you ask me at this point what the purpose of life is, I would say it is for all of us as individuals to fully extinguish the potentiality of our being. And that's going to look different for each and every one of us, depending on our natural talents and our experiences. We all have different potentials. But in going for that fullest potential, some of us may require more money to do that. You know, for some people to reach their fullest potential, they may need the ability to fly off to Egypt to go catch some conference or something without having to worry about the cost or getting time off, just having the ability to just go. There is no reason at all to put these unnecessary ceilings over yourself. All you're doing is limiting your options.
We were raised with not much at all. I remember the only money that I did have, that I would make like $5 a month in allowance, and I would spend all my money on Vogue magazines, because I would look through the pages and I was inspired by these creative runway shows and just the idea of the art behind it all. And also I saw my mom go through a relationship where she was stuck in an abusive relationship, and she did not have a way out. She didn't have enough money. My view on money is that I think the more money that I have, the more places I'll probably be able to go, the more people I can help and I can impact. And like the more that I give, the more I get back, the more I can give. And it's like this just big circle of money where it's not even really about the money. It's about what that provides us. It provides us experience.
You want to be secured financially. You know, who wants to struggle? The organization, they want you to struggle. They don't care if you're, barely making ends meet, as long as you help them financially. But it's like when you wake up, you want to, not in a selfish way, but you want to learn to cater to yourself, because when you're locked in, you're taught to belittle yourself. We're called worthless slaves for God, right? So you want to, me personally, I realized I had to see my self-worth, and a part of that was in our financial aspect. And I had to say, hey, let me take care of myself, because the governing body leaders, they're not going to take care of me. If I was still a witness, waiting for Paradise Earth, 70, 80 years wasted, I have no savings, and Paradise doesn't happen after 70 years of patiently waiting, the governing body leaders, they're not going to take care of their members. They're not going to take care of the people.
Met a man, a worldly man, who's very kind, and he he believed in me and thought that my daycare was absolutely wonderful, and he encouraged me to get an education. So I went in to get my early childhood education. I went from an unlicensed daycare to a licensed daycare. We got staff that loved the job, and together with the staff, and we opened up 3 more daycares. I raised my girls during that whole time. I found that the more I improved my job, the more people would want to come to me. So if you put your best into whatever you're doing, it'll naturally come. You manifest stuff by the things that you put out. It comes back to you, and I've definitely found that.
So just to illustrate the freedom that you have, the freedom of thought that you have, the way that you can open your mind and open your perspectives when you leave the witnesses. This house here is currently listed at $8.3 million. It's got 5 bedrooms, 6 bathrooms, 6,846 square feet. Now, to your average witness, this house is nothing more than a symbol of materialism. Your average witness would say, why would anybody need a house like this? But when you leave the witnesses, you can begin to appreciate the full story. I went to school for architectural design. And as I was learning the programs and just learning how to design a house, learning all the rules, that architectural design started to become a creative outlet for me. And when I would do my personal projects, trying to push the boundaries of my creativity, I would design these ultimate style homes, much like this one. And so you see, this home doesn't just have to be a symbol of materialism. It doesn't have to be something negative. This home has a bigger story. It's a story of an architectural designer who was told to make the ultimate house for this property. And so that person pushed their limits. They pushed their creativity to see what they could do. And this is what they came up with. From their imagination into physical reality. These high-end homes that are only reserved for the rich, a lot of the design features from these homes get trickled down into homes that are more priced for your average person. But it has to start somewhere. It has to start with someone having the freedom to push boundaries. And that's what it's all about. Pushing boundaries, not just materialism. And the same thing could be said with high-end cars, supercars, hypercars. Back when I was a witness, it was considered a bad thing to desire one of these. Again, the way they view it is nothing more than a symbol of materialism, a toy for the rich. When you leave the witnesses, just like that house, you can begin to open your mind, view a larger story, because these cars also represent the collection of some of the top designers, some of the top mechanics, some of the top software engineers, all coming together to create the ultimate machine.
When I was questioning that it wasn't the truth, I told myself, oh, I can just pretend not to believe, but I'm gonna stay in it. Because the thought of like leaving all my family and friends gave me anxiety for like weeks. Once I started to disappear, I'm sure you guys can relate to, like no one reached out. You know, they say they love you, you know, like, oh, we care about you. It's like, yeah, only if I fill a seat and I believe what you believe. Is that conditional or unconditional? You can answer that. It's like, I don't wanna be surrounded with people that think the same as me now. Like, I always wanna be around people that think differently, you know? That challenge me. I always want to be challenged. I think that's a healthy way of living. I don't know, I feel like that's humble. I mean, who's more humble? Someone that's like, what I'm reading is true and it's always going to be true, or someone that's willing to like let the universe teach them and tell them?
It's kind of funny, even as a child, I was able to recognize the difference between the friends I had at the Kingdom Hall versus the friends I had at school. And one of the biggest differences was just the ability to be myself, to be authentic. You know, the fact that I could tell that as a child, that really says something. It really shows how the way Jehovah's Witnesses view friendship is not authentic. It's not real, true friendship. I like to say they're like rent-a-friends. You know, These friends are leased to you by the Watchtower. And if you stop going to meetings, if you stop following their direction, then those friends will be repossessed from you. And that's exactly what happens.
And we knew right away that we wanted to help ones that were leaving, because we knew what it was like to lose our family. And we just wanted to go public. So that was one of the reasons why we disassociated.
The relationships within the congregation were all very highly regulated and programmed. They were all programmed relationships. Anything outside of those programmed relationships, there was going to be consequences for. The relationships just weren't full, genuine, open, human relationships with each other. They just weren't. It was all prescribed. The Watchtower prescribed how everybody was to relate to each other as well as to the public. And unfortunately, what it resulted in people putting on acts. They were acts. They weren't natural human relations. They were programmed human relations.
I never thought that I would have these precious friendships from my childhood. I was told that that was gone, you would never have it again, But it was so crazy that in my 40s, I reconnected with so many friends from my childhood, from my same congregation that are also out too. But we never would have known unless somebody would have reached out. It's kind of interesting because everybody's kind of gone their own way. I mean, I have a friend that she really loves going to church, and I have another friend that, a couple of friends that are so into their kids, it's like their religion, And you've got me sort of I don't know, I'm sort of like a spiritual kind of person, but all of us, we just love each other, we respect each other, we're all on different income levels, we're all so different, but it's I don't know, we just love each other, there's no judgment.
In the map behind us, we've traveled the United States, we've had meetups in many, many states, and we've got more to come. It's very encouraging. We truly love the people that we're connecting with, and they show that love, and we call it the apostate love.
Yeah, because the apostates love each other, and we love the friends that are in the organization, whether or not they choose to stay in or choose to come out. It's a journey that we're all on.
Now that I'm on the outside, all of my friendships are based on authenticity. We don't have to have the same beliefs. We don't have to have the same views. In fact, I enjoy it when we don't have the same beliefs and the same views. That creates a discussion, an interesting discussion, sharing different perspectives. That's human. That's a human connection, an authentic human connection, something that we were not allowed to have as witnesses, where the whole connection, the whole theme of the friendship had to be about religion. And best of all, I don't have to worry about saying the wrong thing or doing the wrong thing or acting the wrong way around them and fearing that they will shun me for it. I can just be myself. They can be themselves. I mean, that is friendship. That's true friendship. One of my favorite things about the ex-Jehovah's Witness community is that we all came from the same origin, but we are all heading in different directions. We have the freedom to have different perspectives, to research different belief systems, and all of these things give us back our humanity. Leaving the Witnesses was definitely one of the hardest things that I've ever been through. I mean, it really took me to my limits. I had to go through very deep depression, constant anxiety, feeling lost, feeling confused, going through internal battles, losing so many people that to this day I miss. To this day, I don't even know if they're still alive. I have dreams where I would see my old friends, and I wake up and I just miss them so dearly. I mean, that word missing takes on a different meaning to me now. But at the same time, it's all worth it.
I really love the idea that I was going to be living in paradise earth forever. that I would be able to see the whole earth and pet the panda bears. In waking up, I realized that that dream was gone. And so I decided to kind of take life into my own hands, and it's been one of my biggest goals to see the whole world. Like, I really don't want that to be taken away from me. So when I left the Witnesses, I think I've traveled more than I've ever traveled in my whole life. And in fact, my first international trip that I took was to Israel. I went to Israel for a whole month, and I went to Jerusalem, I went to the sea, I went just all over the place. I like to go to the grocery stores. I think it's so fun to see what other people are eating on the daily. I love going to restaurants. I love just walking down the streets. I like just saying hi to people. I mean, I've just had so many cool trips that I've taken since I've left, and you know, that dream didn't have to die with the religion. So
I definitely want to focus more on like building a future for me, maybe even having a family. I want to raise kids and do it in a way that's like raise kids that differently than the way I was raised, you know, kind of start over, start a new trend, I guess.
You don't need to be a part of a man-made organization in order to find happiness, in order to find real, true meaning in life. You know, because when you're in an organization, you kind of don't have meaning. You know, you're just stagnant in an organization waiting, right? But when you leave, you get to achieve your goals. You get to have some type of aspirations. You get to work towards something that you want to do. You can't do that as a witness. Your whole life is devoted to the organization as a witness, right? So when you wake up, you get to do things for you. Me personally, I love to travel. I'm thankful I was able to travel. Like I said, I'm out here with Justin. I went to Canada. I went to quite a few different states in America and cities, and I'm just living my life because we really have one life to live, guys, right? So don't let that fear hold you back.
So if you're watching this as a Jehovah's Witness and you're going through those internal battles and you're wondering, should I stay or should I go? Is it really safe to leave? What will happen when I leave? Well, now you've heard from several ex-Jehovah's Witnesses about their growth, their struggles, their opportunities that they've been able to encounter after leaving the Jehovah's Witnesses. I'm not going to lie to you. The real truth is that you are leaving a high control group, a group that had control over nearly every aspect of your life, including the way you think, the way you see the world around you, and most importantly, the way you see yourself. And now here you are, trying to take control over your life, trying to find your own path. For sure, you're going to stumble a few times here and there. But just know, those stumbles do not define you. As a Jehovah's Witness, we were taught to be so self-critical, but that is so unhealthy and so damaging to you. Now that you're on the outside, be aware. Learn to fail forward. Focus on your healing. Do what makes you happy. And most of all, live. Don't just exist. Live. So this is the Tacoma Dome. This is the place that witnesses used to hold their district conventions every summer. It was actually here at this building, right here in this spot, where I saw my first apostate. And it's kind of ironic being here today, being on this side of the fence, you know, trying to help people to get out of this religion. In reality, it was the bad guys who turned out to be the real good guys.